Cucumba.
What was it? Cucumba. Put it in the water and...
Vitamins, minerals, great. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of my Athletic Compendium. Just slurred my words a little bit, but here we go.
This is
vodka.
vodka.
No, it's not. This week, we're going to do a bit of a different type of episode. We're going to do a bit of a summary over the past, how many episodes? 28, 29, 30?
Something close to that.
Over the past year, anyway.
Yeah.
We'll do a summary of the past year. But essentially, we're going to just dive into each topic very briefly, give a bit of an overview, and what the most important takeaway points are from each episode, I think would be useful, and what you as listeners or viewers can get the most benefit out of. And then we're going to talk about what we're going to do next. Essentially, we've always planned for this to be like a season 1, season 2, season 3 sort of gag, and we're coming to the end of season 1, aren't we, Max?
Yeah. So far we've kind of just touched on the basics of all these different topics, areas of nutrition, areas of S&C, and so on. We've gone through the basics, so now we're gonna, in season 2, go into some more specific,
more in-depth,
advanced, in-depth stuff.
Definitely.
And I think we're also going to get some people on as well.
That's the plan. Get some guests.
We've
already got a couple lined up, which we're quite keen to. I was going to say keen about, but it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I think we've laid the foundations now for a lot of the most important topics. We may have missed a couple, but we work full time. We don't. We're busy people. And if there is anything we've missed, we're always going to go back and touch on it. But I feel like we've hit the nail on the head with the foundations of pretty much everything. And now for those that really want to get into the nitty gritty of it, the specifics essentially, then season 2 is going to be for you. And we're going to change it up slightly because we've got some people that want to come on the podcast. So exciting times ahead. Watch this space. So, right, let's start with S&C. Okay. Give us a summary.
Cool. So S&C, it's very broad. You need to work out what your goals are. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the first thing that you need to kind
Same
of
with
work
nutrition.
out. Yeah.
It's identifying a goal, isn't it? What are you working towards?
Yeah, so you're not shooting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to have a focus, have a goal, and then work out, okay, what are the steps to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
Define what that is, and then depending on what it is, obviously the type of training that you do is going to head you in that direction, and then so whether that's hypertrophy training to gain some muscle, whether that's power training or strength training, whatever that might be, define, give yourself a bit of an amount of time to give yourself to achieve that goal that's going to be realistic.
Absolutely.
Again, stuff that we've spoke about before, and then ultimately trying to help you perform better. While you're working towards that goal, making sure that you are performing well. You need to be able to recover. You need to be able to feel good when you're playing while you're heading towards this goal.
Yeah, I've certainly noticed over the last year. Obviously, you've been coaching me, but I've noticed a significant difference in my performance. Not only in the gym, but out on the field, which is essentially what we all do this for.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually being coached and I'm actually doing the right thing at certain times in the season. At the start of season, there was a lot of volume at pre-season in your natural training. And I can't remember what you had me on then, but I was able to manage the workload of pre-season training. because they stack everything volume high, lots of sprints, lots of stuff like that. And before I had you coaching me, essentially I was just doing too much and I was burnt out, and then come training I was absolutely knackered. So I think you're right, getting those goals in line with what you're trying to achieve.
It's quite difficult, I think, from our perspective, because obviously we're giving you this information, but we spent years doing a degree and whatever to get this knowledge, and obviously we're trying to simplify it, and obviously we're going to go into more detail, but I can never tell you exactly what's going on in here and why I'm implementing this amount of reps, this amount of sets for absolutely everything. And it's the same with you lot, when you define your goal and you put together, based off your knowledge, a routine or whatever to get you towards that goal. You do need to do a bit of research yourself. This podcast is a tool for you, but for like me coaching you, it's quite easy, because I could just say, do this, and then you'll do it, and then you feel great. I try, and obviously as we go along, maybe not specifically with you because you're a friend, I'm not doing it, you're not a paying client, but normally I would provide a weekly thing to say, okay, this is why we're doing this is why we're doing that. So I think bit off topic, but
no, but I kind of agree with you. Essentially what I get from that is everyone has their own lane, and I'm not telling people to stay in their own lane, but everyone has their own level of experience in certain areas, and the way to accelerate progress is to learn off people who are already excelling in those areas. I've been studying nutrition since I was 18. I'm now 27. God, Jesus. So that's 9 years I've been learning specifically about nutrition and been working with nutrition. You're pretty much the same. You're a little bit younger than me, aren't you? Are you?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've had that experience. You've had that client experience. You've learned at uni. Now, taking myself back to when I was like 18 or 17 and I wanted to gain size, I could research all the bodybuilding articles in the world and I could follow that plan. But actually, that's designed for people who are just bodybuilding. They're not playing sport alongside that. So actually trying to gain muscle mass and play the sport which is what we're all doing, the athletic compendium, training those athletes, it just didn't marry up. And learning from you, because you know how to effectively coach and stratify those things into it, it certainly helped my progression anyway.
I definitely remember mentioning this in a previous podcast, but I'll say it again, but it is really worth that. There's a massive level of naivety, but also kind of arrogance in strength and conditioning, or in the sporting world, where you can be a rugby player, or any level really, but and you can think that you know what you're doing in terms of S&C, because how hard can lifting weights be, and blah blah, everyone can do it, do you know what I mean? But there's so much behind it, and we've obviously, like you mentioned, we've been doing this and learning this and studying this for years, but we're still learning.
100%.
There's so many rabbit holes that you can go down, definitely in S&C, and I'm sure definitely in nutrition as well.
100%.
So
I like I said, been working in this now. Well, I've been studying it for over 9 years whilst working in it, but I've been working for like 5 years now, 4 or 5 years, and every day I'm learning something new. Which is, I wouldn't have it any other way. If you're not learning, you're not growing. You need to grow physically, mentally, and money-wise, monetary. Just need that.
But just to kind of mention again, like, one thing that's massively, I think, undervalued, especially if you're, semi-professional or intermediate or whatever, is to have a coach, to have a nutritionist, to have an S&C coach or a PT or whatever. Obviously, just making sure that, the industry is a little bit broken with, there are poor PTs, there are poor nutritionists. So you've obviously got to do your research and make sure that you're getting the right one. But it's massively undervalued, and But if obviously that's not something that you'd want to do, then you've just got to make sure that you're doing your own research and you're working things out and you're answering questions and you're not just doing bicep curls because you enjoy it and thinking that that's going to make you bigger, a better rugby player, because it's not.
I agree. Like, there's going back to when I started out, there is every man and his dog on Instagram trying to sell you a workout plan. And yes, a workout can get you out of breath, it can tire you out, but actually the purpose of having a good strength and conditioning coach like yourself, not just, you're not paying me for this, but you're thinking about building on building to eventually achieve your goal, which is always fitter, stronger, faster sort of thing. But it's not just about the one workout, it's about how does that workout on 1 week build into the next week, and how does that week build into the next month, and that month into the year, and the year on years. But if you're doing that for yourself and you don't have that information, yes, you can do that research, but you will accelerate your progress by learning off someone who has already done that, like either paying for a good coach and, like you said, doing your research to find that good coach. I think you mentioned it in episode 1, is find a good PT and learn off them, so you're learning the correct techniques and everything's stratified. But I think that's most important, isn't it?
I think so. I think if it's a genuine interest of yours, because obviously you know there might be people out there watching that are
wanting to go down that route,
sports players and whatever,
and you're their idol.
But equally on the flip side, there might be people watching that are a sports player and love their sport but absolutely hate the gym, and aren't that interested. But you know, if you want to be a sports person, S&C nutrition is
a massive part of it.
Huge, massive. So there is an element of, you know, if you want to be a better athlete, then there are really important, you know, aspects to it.
I always think the thing that always like sparks interest in me is specifically rugby players. When you look at them, they are all massive. Like whatever position, they are massive, and you've got to think that, you know, some of them might have a really keen interest in going to the gym, like you said. Some of them might not, but equally they are all pretty damn big and they're all, you know, fast and strong. And that comes from having a good strength and conditioning coach. Like each team will have their own strength and conditioning coach, which will put them through their paces, making sure they're building on building. And you even see it at academy levels. Like, well, you coach the academy team, but those guys are 18 and they are built like brick shit houses because they're training in the correct way.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, isn't it? It's training in the correct way.
Yeah.
Which slightly moves on to a nice tangent of nutrition.
Yeah.
Because you've got to train effectively. And obviously over the last few episodes, well, not last few, but the start of the season, we touch on each aspect of every macronutrient, you know, why they're important, what foods they come from, how to calculate your nutritional requirements for your goals. So again, in line with your goals, if you're trying to gain weight, you want to eat more calories than you need. And if you're trying to lose weight, then you need to eat less calories than you need. Obviously, to maintain your weight, you need to eat the right amount of calories. But then if you're strength training and you're not trying to gain mass, then you don't necessarily need more calories than you need because you're not building. You're not building mass, you're just building strength. Same with speed and power. You don't necessarily need more calories. So you have to tailor your nutrition depending on your needs, and which we'll touch on in season 2. But the specific amounts of protein, the specific amount of carbohydrates, and specific amount of fats that you need in your diet will change depending on your goals and depending on the sport you do, because realistically body composition will change depending on the sport you do. Just as an example, if you're a sumo wrestler, having a high body mass, regardless of whether all of it's muscle or a lot of it's fat, is ideal because you weigh more and you're doing that sort of thing. But a figure skater doesn't want to carry excess body fat because it's only going to hinder them. It's a brief summary, isn't it? I don't want to go too much in detail because all the episodes have done that before.
Tell me a little bit about
myself. Yeah, okay.
My name's James. Tell me a little bit about. Oh, I was completely lost.
Oh, I can't tell you about that, Max.
Oh, your witty joke has thrown me off. I had something that I was like, genuinely, like this is going to be useful.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
We can cut that bit out.
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah. Carry on. It's gone. Sorry.
Max has had a brain bloop, but yeah. Nice. Is there anything else that we feel like that we need to summarise? We've introduced what's going to happen next season. We've spoken about nutrition. We've spoken about strength and conditioning. I think there's an important element of motivation, which we've touched on in previous episodes. There's goal setting. That's a whole episode in itself. Social aspects of sport. If you haven't listened to that one, make sure you do. Dilly. But essentially, I think that wraps up season 1.
Yeah. I think one thing that I think this is probably got a good opportunity to say that obviously we've touched on all of the sort of basics of all of these topics. If you do have questions, or if you do have certain areas that you think we've missed, or things that you think are quite interesting, doesn't matter how specific or general they are, tell us, and we will do it. Because we're not the biggest channel in the world, so if you message
we're not
us,
the biggest
we'll
channel in the world. Yeah, exactly.
So
but any comments are welcome, and any questions are welcome.
100%. You
never know, a question could spur us into a whole episode, so your questions will be answered.
Yeah.
Nice. Got anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Do you want to do the arrivederci?
Arrivederci.
See you in season 2.
Nice.
Nice one, Gary. What was your question?
I fucking can't remember.